As I sit down, the waitress arrives with a second pot of tea that Malcolm had ordered in anticipation of my arrival. "So," I ask as the girl walks away. "Some news of interest has come through. Upstairs has examined the mortal remains of your dive bomber, and one distressing detail stands out. He wasn't a dive bomber." "The burst of railgun fire he stitched across my back says he was," I reply sharply. "Oh, don't take that as a slight there, my dear fellow," Malcolm says before pausing to bite into a scone. I wait patiently for him to continue. "He was certainly from uprange, just nowhere near the top. A native of the 23rd century, it would appear." "The body mods look pretty crude for that time," I say dubiously. "What are you comparing them to, old bean? An early 21st century arm or leg? Although in that time period there is a fad for obvious body mods, especially within certain social circles, like the criminal ones." "That explains the metal teeth," I reply. "The Thai bod that's up there is investigating and believes he can find a name, although it would have helped if you'd left slightly more of his head." I shrug, and Malcolm doesn't pursue it. Actions in the field are seldom perfect. "So what exactly are we talking here?" I ask. Control guides me on to what they say is a dive bomber. "But now you say it's some bod from 2 centuries up, carrying a weapon from the late 21st century. Never mind who he is. How did he get time travel technology? Was there even a dive bomber?" Malcolm looks uncomfortable. "There was a dive bomber, by standard definitions." I raise an eyebrow. It seldom bodes well when people start qualifying things. "He, she or it came down fast with very few temporal acclimatization stops. Fast enough to fall just inside the definition of a dive bomber, but not so fast they are guaranteed to suffer a temporal loss of coherency event," I finish for him. I've always thought of time travel as being a bit like diving. When divers with tanks go deep, on the way up or down, they have to spend time in intermediate depths to acclimatise. But then you get the occasional lunatic who does that free diving stuff, going as deep as they can with one lungful of air. With time travel, move more than a few centuries away from your original time, and you have to stop in one period for a while to allow your atoms to temporally align. To be able to come down here and stay here indefinitely, Malcolm spent 20 relative years coming down. How much relative time is needed rises in a curve. Hours for the first few centuries, then days, then months. By the time you get down to the upper wall, the acclimatization period is longer than the actual period which you're able to jump. By jumping across multiple centuries, dive bombers cut down on the number of opportunities for Thai to intercept them. But by doing so, they pretty much guarantee that they are going to suffer a molecular collapse. So they are effectively dead men walking, which explains why, when they do get down this far, they're so bloody dedicated. The slower a dive bomber can come down, the more time in which they have to work. A hypothetical time traveller with dive bomber intentions who managed to make it down slowly is pretty much the worst case scenario. Control and the Thai agent for that century are continuing to investigate, Malcolm continues after a moment. It may well be possible that the individual was sent down here as a decoy. It is possible the dive bomber's business was in the 23rd century, while the gentleman you encountered was an expendable one sent down to distract our attention. If so, it worked. That guy seemed a little too determined to punch my card to be just some renter thug. In fact, how does the 23rd century even have someone not fazed by the idea of being sent back 200 years to kill someone? The natives of that era are no more aware of real time travel than they are down here. I feel an unaccustomed regret from having shot him. Certainly the only way anyone from the 23rd century could know of time travel is if they interacted with somebody from my time, Malcolm replies with a wan smile. Beyond that, old chap, I can't say more on a couple of different levels. A lot of our conversations go that way. He can't answer questions about the future, and it wouldn't be good for me if he did. The same is true when I talk to my closest Thai colleagues. Cyrilla, my 22nd century counterpart, once told me it was a relief when my now finally reached 9/11. I know what she means, but I don't think I'll feel any sense of relief when Alex reaches World War I.